It's taken 7 months, but Durban residents finally know what they inhaled when a chemical warehouse burnt down. The facility in Cornubia was torched during the July unrest last year. Harmful chemical runoff has already done damage to a nearby river, lagoon and nature reserve. Now, an atmospheric report has been released by the provincial government. They found at least 62 chemicals were likely present in the smoke that hung over the area for a week. While most of the effects are expected to be temporary, conditions were present for irreversible and long-lasting adverse health effects. Susan Comrie from the amaBhungane Center for Investigative Journalism has broken this story. She joins us now. Susan, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. First of all, why did this investigation take so long, 7 whole months? And now that it's done, what are the chemicals that people were inhaling?
So it's a good question of why it took so long. I mean, the report itself was written in October, but was only made public by the department about a week or 10 days ago. It's not quite clear why they took so long to release it. In terms of why it took so long for the report itself to be written, one can understand that a little bit better. You see, when the fire started, there weren't kind of air sensors around the area that could pick up exactly what was burning. Instead, what you had was a group of consultants having to come in, having to model what was likely in the air. They had to take the inventory of roughly 700 different pesticides that were in the warehouse. Those are very complex products made up of all kinds of different chemicals, and basically figure out what would likely have emerged as this fire burned, as the debris smoldered. So they've come up with a report which has kind of identified a number of chemicals that were most likely to be the largest culprits, those being hydrogen cyanide, hydrochloric acid, and bromine, as well as some other pollutants which we're more familiar with from coal-fired power stations, being SOx, NOx, and particulate matter.
So there are 3 levels of exposure, from what I understand. The first level is sort of short-lived symptoms and irritation, and the third being what could be life-threatening complications. So what level of exposure was there for those areas in Durban, and which areas were affected?
So according to the experts who produced the report, their models show that large chunks of northern Durban were exposed to areas, what they call AEGL level 1. We'll just use level 1 as shorthand. Those are, as you've said, are levels of chemicals where you're going to experience short-term effects. And these can be quite crucial, sort of suffocating feeling, coughing, tearing eyes, burning throat, burning lungs, dizziness. But those effects should disappear when you're no longer exposed to the chemical. However, the report concluded that there were areas that were exposed to what level 2 levels of chemicals, which could have irreversible and long-term health consequences. Now, we've put the report up on our website on amaBhungane.org, and we've kind of pointed people to where those lists are, where they can find the breakdown of what areas were exposed to which levels of chemicals potentially.
Susan, does this report give a clear indication of what the chemicals were? Is this conclusive?
No, I mean, because it's based on modeling. It's really, a very sort of sophisticated look at what was likely to have formed in that fire. One of the big question marks is no one is quite sure what was washed away with the sort of firefighting water and what was burned up. So what really needs to happen now is the next stage of the investigation is really ground truthing those investigations, the academic reports, to go out there, identify all of the people who have experienced effects and try and understand, does it look like they're suffering from long-term effects? Does it look like that, the effects that they experienced, that those disappeared when they were no longer exposed to the smoke? So that's the next phase of the investigation, which will produce a human health impact risk assessment.
How long would that process take, Susan? And also, what's UPL's response been?
We're not quite sure how long that process will take. One of the things that the provincial government has been really good about is that they have made a huge number of reports available through a website that they have set up, where anyone can go and download all of these technical reports detailing everything from the air to what was in the water to what was in the soil and things like that. But unfortunately, because it is a long and technical process, we don't have a sort of firm idea of how long that's going to take to get those answers. In terms of UPL's response, their response, they said they don't dispute the results of the airshed report. They think it was, scientifically sound. They do, however, think that when the process of kind of testing these results in the field happens, they're confident that it's only going to show that people experience short-term reversible effects. They don't believe that there will be any evidence of long-term effects.